Welcome back to Mindful Minecraft. My name's Andrew, and this is our All the Mods 10 survival series. I had a plan, then somehow I ended up with half of an AE2 setup, a full SFM setup, and a basement full of machines that I didn't mean to build yet. So today, we slow down and power up. Time to build our first reactor. So coming back down here into our little basement, I want to go over this reactor and how we're actually going to make this, and then how we're going to fuel it, how we're going to make sure we get the waste out of it, and then how we're going to transfer the power and turn it on and off. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Extreme Reactors. So if we were to go ahead and open up our quest book here, and we navigate down to the Extreme Reactors tab, you're going to see a couple things here, but what we're focused on is the reactor building components and our first reactor. We are going to scale this up because the little tutorial here only shows you how to make a little 3x3, and this does not make nearly enough power for what we need it for. So we're just going to go over these different items and what they're for and how to use them. So I've got them bookmarked here, and we're going to start with the reactor casing basic tier. So this is the reactor casing. This is like what we build the frame out of, and then we need a bunch of this to craft each of these components as well. So each reactor piece requires a certain amount of reactor casings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and craft up like 4 stacks of these. To craft these, you just need 4 iron ingots, 4 graphite bars, and 1 sand, and that'll get you 1 reactor casing. So we've got 256 reactor casings. That should serve us pretty well. And then I think we have everything else we need at the warehouse. So we've got our reactor controller up first. We need 4 reactor casings. We need 1 redstone comparator, 2 uranium ingots, 1 diamond, and 1 redstone dust for the controller. The next item on our list is reactor solid access ports. These are how we take items and put them into our reactor, as in like our fuel source, or extract the waste from the reactor. So we're going to need 2 of these. We need 1 for input and 1 for output. To craft them, you need 4 reactor casings, 2 iron ingots, 1 hopper, 1 piston, and 2 chests. So we'll make 2 of those. Then we're going to need a reactor active forge energy power tap. Now, the forge energy, that's FE, so we could just call this the FE power tap, and it's active. So no matter what, it will always just output power. There's a passive version, which just requires a signal, I believe. Not quite sure, I haven't used it. To craft this, you just need 4 reactor casings, 4 blocks of redstone, and 1 redstone dust. We'll just make 1 of those. And then this is a bulk craft. We're going to need a bunch of these. So let's start with the control rod. The control rod goes at the top of the reactor, and we can actually configure settings on this to change the insertion of the fuel rod. But we're not going to be really too concerned about that quite yet. We're doing a 5x5 reactor, so we just need 5 of these. So let's go ahead and let's craft 5 of these. There's our 5. Now we need our reactor fuel rods, and these go in the center of our reactor in a alternating pattern in that 3x3. And we'll go over this, but we need 15 of these. Now this just costs 2 glass, 4 iron ingots, 1 uranium, and 2 graphite bars per 1. And then we need to make 2 reactor redstone ports. This is 4 reactor casings, 1 redstone comparator, 1 redstone repeater, 2 iron, and 1 gold ingot per 1. And we just need 2 of these. And then I want to make redstone links for these. We are also going to need a block for the inside to cool these. So let's go with platinum, and I have some of this at the other base where we're going to be building this, so let's go there. We are just going to need 12 of these, and then we can take our remaining reactor casings here and we can turn these into reactor glass. You don't have to do this, I just want to. You can just use the reactor casings. I think they look cool. So it's just 2 glass and 1 reactor casing. And I'm just gonna make a stack of these. We have plenty of reactor casings to go around. And then the last things we're gonna need. We're gonna need 2 logic cables. We're gonna need 2 item exporters. And we're gonna need 2 item interfaces. And then we can pick ourselves up some drawers. Let's grab 2 normal drawers. And then we're going to need 2 variable cards. We cannot forget these, and we might want to bring a logic programmer with us. And to make one of these, you just need a block of crystallized mineral and you need 1 crafting table. So this is everything that we should need. We should have 2 reactor redstone ports, 2 redstone links, 12 platinum blocks, 1 FE power tap, as much glass and as many extra casings as you want. You should only need 57 reactor casings to build this. And then make sure you have your reactor controller, your 5 control rods, your 15 reactor fuel rods, your 2 solid access ports, and that just about does that. Everything else is just kind of up to your preference. We're just using integrated dynamics for this. So let's go ahead and let's start setting up our 5x5 reactor. Now, we're going to start with our reactor casings in a 5 by, you guessed it, 5 pattern on the ground. We're going to fill in this entire layer, and then we need to go up 4 blocks off of this bottom layer, and then we can wrap our frame all the way around. Now we need to fill in these inner 4 blocks and leave 5 blocks in an X pattern open. Next up, we need our reactor control rods and our reactor fuel rods, as well as our 12 platinum blocks. In each of these slots, go ahead and place 1 control rod, and then go ahead and fill in your fuel rods on those control rods. Now go ahead and just place your 12 platinum blocks in the empty spaces in the middle. Now the core of our reactor is complete, and we can go ahead and we can start putting all of our components together. So let's start with our solid access ports, and I'm going to do our item input and output on this side. You can put these on the other side if you want, but I just like putting them on one side to keep it clean. Now let's go to the opposite side, and let's take our FE power tap and place it right in the center. And then let's take our 2 redstone ports and put them on the sides of that power tap. Then we're going to take our redstone links and put them on each redstone port. Then on this right one, go ahead and shift right click it to set it to receive. And we'll worry about this in a second. On the front side, let's go ahead and place our reactor controller, and then let's take our reactor glass and fill in the remaining slots. Now, our reactor is ready to rock. We can tell it's on because these, if we were to break this again, you'll see they have that texture, it changes. So our reactor is set up, it's ready for fuel, and it's ready to export power. But first, let's go over how we're going to set up our fuel system. So on the side with your solid access ports, go ahead and pick which one you want to be your input or your output. I'm going to go with the front one being our outlet, and you'll see that changes to outward green arrows. This is where the waste is going to come out of, and this is where the fuel is going to be input. So let's go ahead and let's place our drawers right beneath each solid access port. Now you can use whatever fuel you want that works with Extreme Reactors, but I'm going with uranium because I have it auto crafting and fully automated over here. So my problem currently is I set up some RFTools crafters down there, and it made mechanism uranium. So for the time being, these are crafting mechanism uranium, but it's supposed to be crafting all the ores uranium. So I'm just going to filter this with the mechanism one, since that's the one that's constantly being made. And then I'm going to put an item exporter directly onto the inlet access port. Then I'm going to take an item interface and put it on our drawer. Then I'll take and I'll put a logic cable to connect those two. And then I'll open the item exporter and I'll put one card in there. Now I need to go grab some more fuel for this and lock this. So for the time being, we'll just put this in by hand. And you'll see our fuel rods just filled up. This holds one stack of your fuel source, which in our case is the uranium, and it's pulling it out of our drawer. So this is set up. This is good to go. Let's go ahead and lock this. And then this one, we have to set up inversely. So since this is the inventory we're reading from, we're going to put our item interface there, and we're going to put our exporter on the drawer since that's where the items are going to. Then we can put our logic cable and slot in our variable card. And now as soon as this has cyanite, it'll send one out, and then we can lock this, and that'll be that. Now for this part, we need to set up the redstone links. Now our reactor redstone ports have a couple settings here. We're going to make sure this is clicked on, and then we're going to go down here to energy stored, and then it will say active while above internal buffer. Let's put it active while below, and then let's set this to 80%. Now, whenever this internal buffer hits 80%, our reactor is going to automatically turn on and it'll fill back up. And then over here, we need to turn this one to set from signal and hit save. And you can see it turned our reactor on. When this hits 80%, our reactor is going to shut off. But we picked up enough momentum and heat to actually fill that all the way up. But let's go ahead and just turn this all the way on and just let it run so we can see how much FE per tick this is making. So with our fuel rods at 0% insertion, we are currently making 45.62k FE per tick. And we're burning 0.089 millibuckets per tick. Each ingot is 1000 millibuckets. So let's just go ahead and turn this off since we have ample FE in our buffer here. And then let's go ahead and let's move into how we're going to get this power out of here. And how we're going to get this power out of here is by making flux dust. So we're going to need at least 4 stacks of redstone dust. I'd say that's like a good amount to start with because you're going to need a ton of this stuff. And then 1 block of obsidian. So I will meet you down at bedrock. So now we're down here at bedrock, and what we want to do is first make sure if you have a magnet to turn it off, and then kind of get up close to a corner or a wall and drop all your redstone down and make sure it's making contact with just the bedrock. And then go ahead and place your obsidian above it and then left click. That was a pretty cool little animation there, but it just turns that redstone into flux dust. And now we have exactly what we need, and we're ready to get started with Flux Networks. So we're back on the power tap side of our reactor here, and I have everything we need in this backpack here. So I've already got a ton of flux dust. I wouldn't call this a ton, but it's enough to get us started. And then I've got some flux blocks and some flux cores, as well as some flux points and flux plugs. And then down here, I've got a flux controller. So we need to start by making a flux controller because this is how we're going to set our network up and enable wireless charging. So to do this, we're going to need 5 flux blocks, 2 flux dust, and 1 flux core. But the first thing we need to craft is a flux core. You get 4 of these per craft, and they cost 4 obsidian, 4 flux dust, and 1 eye vendor. And then you're going to need these to craft your flux blocks. And needing 5 of these, you're going to need 4 flux cores and 5 flux dust per flux block. So I've got mine crafted, and let's go ahead and let's set this down. We can actually set this anywhere, but just to keep this simple, I'm going to put it right here, right in front of our reactor. And then the next thing we need to do is open it and open the network selector. I have a network on the reactor I built downstairs. Don't worry about that. We're going to go ahead and make a new network by clicking on the plus sign in the top right corner. It says create new network, and then you've got some options here. So I'm just going to name this test 5x5 reactor, and then we'll change the color to green or something. And then you have security here. So if we want to make it encrypted, we can put a password on it. If we want to make it private, only we can use it. And if we're on a server and we want our friends to use it, we can just put it on public. I'm just going to keep it private because it doesn't really matter, and create the network. So now there's a network created here, but we need to select the network. So let's go ahead and let's move to network selection and click on our test 5x5 reactor network. And you'll see here, it's green now, so it's linked up. So what we need to do to connect our reactor to our network is make a flux plug. To craft one of these, you need 4 flux cores and 1 flux block, and you'll get 1 flux plug. So we have a flux plug. I've already got these, but I'll just craft them. And then to get the power out of our network and power our machines, we need a flux point. To craft this, you need 4 flux cores and 1 block of redstone. I don't have the block of redstone on me. I just have the point. And then you're ready to get power into your machines. So to begin here, what we need to do is put our flux plug onto our energy tap, and then right click it and do the same thing again where we just connect it to that network. Now you can see it's green, it's matching, which means it's connected. To demonstrate how you connect a machine, I'll just place this flux point down. Normally it's connected to the machine with like a little, you can kind of see right there, that little bar and plate, and that tells us it's connected. But what I'm going to do is just select our network, test 5x5 reactor, and that's green and connected. So we can pick this up and we can put it on any machine and it'll power it. But we need somewhere to actually store that power. We need a buffer. Just like this buffer here, we need an external buffer just so we have a easier point of access if we need it, as well as a good little backup of power. So let's go ahead and let's jump into Mekanism. So we're back down here in the trenches in our, a little overcompensated basement here. We have some stuff we're not really supposed to be having, but technically this doesn't exist right now, right? We're going to pretend this doesn't exist. And this has no way to get power other than individual Flux network points. But what I like to do is buffer everything. That way it always has a little bit of a backup in case this goes down for any reason, and we have an automation that would put this back online. So this is incredibly important for things like your ME system later on, because auto crafters and supercomputers and all the machines and cables and channels, they all cost a ton of FE. So it's nice to have a buffer within your system. If you've noticed, this is a little different, right? I grabbed all of our precious metals, and then these are items that we have been crafting using auto crafter, and it's not an AE auto crafter, it's from RFTools, but this stuff, it's being auto crafted over yonder, and it's keeping us stocked up on all of our goodies from our mystical agriculture farm. So I just want to let you know about this. We're not going to go into this or how to auto craft quite yet. First, we need to power our auto crafter, if anything. So I've got some stuff bookmarked here in JEI. We're going to need a machine to start. We need a metallurgic infuser. And to craft this, let's go ahead and make 2 furnaces. And then we'll get 4 iron ingots, 1 osmium ingot, 2 redstone, and those 2 furnaces. And this will get us our metallurgic infuser. Now, this is a cool machine, and we're going to need a bunch of these, if not a little factory of them, or when we automate our mechanism later on. But to get started, let's just go up here and let's put this right here in the middle. Now, this is where our flux point comes in handy. I don't think we necessarily need power to get this to start, but we can check. So before we connect our power, let's test something. We actually need to make these infused alloys, and to do this, we need redstone and copper. You need 1 redstone, which is equivalent to 10 millibuckets of this redstone equivalent here in Mekanism, and you need 1 copper ingot, and that will get you 1 infused alloy. Then over here it shows power, but I want to test something because I remember the metallurgic infuser would actually power itself using the redstone. So let's grab 2 stacks just to test something, and then let's grab some copper ingots, get a stack of those, and let's head back up here. So normally we could just attach this flux point, but I want to test this first. I want to put the redstone here. Oh yeah, it works. So each redstone is equivalent to 4k Fe in this system, which is kind of cool, but we'll take that out because I want to use our power. And then we take our redstone and we put it in this right here, and it fills up. And now we've got a total of 1 bucket of redstone, or the equivalent of 100 redstone dust. Now let's put our flux point on the back, and you can see it's still linked. It remembered the settings before we picked it up. And then let's go inside the metallurgic infuser. We need to open the side configs, and then let's go ahead and clear all configs just to be easy here, just to make this simple. What I'm going to do on the back, it shows you we have our flux point there. We're in the power or the energy tab of our energy config. We're going to left click and we're going to set this to input. Now, no matter what, as long as our reactor is making power, this will receive power. So now we can go ahead and pop our 64 copper ingots in here, and this will start crafting up very slowly at the beginning. We can eventually upgrade this, but we're not too concerned about this right now. And we're going to get our 1 infused alloy for the 1 redstone dust and the 1 copper ingot. We've got 2 of these now. I'm going to let this go, and while we wait, let's look at what we're going to be doing with this. So we need to make an energy cube. This is a basic energy cube. Now this requires 2 energy tablets, and each energy tablet requires 2 of those infused alloys. So we have enough right here to craft 1. We'll go back up and get the rest. It should be done by now. Yeah. Then we'll let that go. Now we have our 2 energy tablets, and then we need one more thing. We need a steel casing. This will require 4 steel ingots, 1 osmium ingot, and 4 glass of any kind. Let's go ahead and grab that, and then we can go ahead and craft our basic energy cube. It's just 4 redstone dust, 2 energy tablets, 2 iron ingots, and 1 steel casing. And now we have a healthy buffer that we can place right here. Now, this is just going to be like the base area of our like little mechanism machine room, and this basic energy cube needs input. So once again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to clear the side config. On the right side, we're going to go output because it's facing the metallurgic infuser, and you can see it ran out of power. And then we might as well do the front output and the back output, and that did set it properly. And then the top, we want it as input. And now we can put our flux point up here, and it just transferred all of that power into that thing. That's full now. And you'll see our metallurgic infuser is actually pulling power from the basic energy cube now. So we have a way to store our power and distribute our power and utilize our power. I hope this makes this a little more simple, and you're able to recreate a reactor, a flux network, and a storage buffer using the basic energy cube from Mekanism, because that's kind of like a little point of contention for a lot of players who are new to modded, is actually just getting into the power aspect of the game. So now that we've got this, let's go gather our thoughts. So now we have two options. We can go over applied energistics, the basics behind me here of the chargers and the inscribers. And I mean that as in the machines by themselves, not in this wacky setup here. That's definitely going to be a next episode thing. Or we can go over the auto crafters and how I'm turning that essence into these materials. And that'll be the last thing we do today. But right now, I'm kind of erring towards the auto crafter because these machines behind us don't really do us any good without any materials. So let's go ahead and let's start in on RFTools. Since we have power now, we can definitely set up auto crafters, and our little integrated dynamics functional storage system should work just fine to get started on auto crafting and importing our items and then exporting them into our system. So we can start there. So before we get into anything too complex, let's go over how to craft the RFTools Crafter. This is our entry-level automation solution. It's cheap, it's accessible, and it's great when you're still figuring out what you want to auto craft. To craft it, you're going to need to start with a machine frame, and these are pretty simple. It's just 4 iron ingots, 2 blue dye, and 2 gold nuggets. Now that you have your machine frame, you can go ahead and craft your tier 1 crafter. This is just going to be a machine frame, 2 crafting tables, and 2 redstone torches. And the cool part about these crafters is, let's just go over tier 1 real quick. So tier 1 only has 2 recipe slots, but you can easily upgrade these by just putting it right back in to the window and having the exact same recipe, and it goes up to a tier 2, and this goes up to 4 recipes, and then one more time for a tier 3, and you'll have 8 recipe slots. Now, I'm just going to show you how to do a basic recipe in here and then lock these slots and get this crafting. But after that, I want to go over something else. So once you've got this placed down, go ahead and put your flux point on top or whatever side you choose. And that's going to make sure that this is powered. Now, before we do anything here, I want to put this to redstone mode on to activate. And then I'm going to make a lever. That way this doesn't just start crafting before we're ready. So let's go ahead and let's pick an essence that we have a lot of that we should probably start breaking down. We've got iron here. Go ahead and grab a stack of that. Now, when we open this UI up, there's going to be 8 recipes. And in order to start working on one, you need to double click, and then you go ahead and you put your recipe in there, and then you hit apply, and now this recipe is locked in. So if we were to put these in here and this was on, it would just automatically start crafting iron ingots. But what we're going to do is actually set this up so that it is able to remember that we only want iron ingots in this one specifically. And you can see here, we blocked all of these slots out using cobblestone, and then we saved 2 slots for our iron essence. So no matter what, at the moment, we'll be able to put in 2 stacks of iron essence at a time, and then turn this on, and it'll start to craft them. Now you can put this on fast mode, but it's going to use significantly more power, but it's nearly instant if you do it that way. Now, this is just a starter setup. Eventually, we'll move into full AE2 auto crafting with CPUs, pattern terminals, and full network logic. But until then, this is a clean, lightweight way to get things going. And there are plenty of mods that can handle this, including pipes, integrated dynamics, even Create can automate logistics for your crafter. But for this setup, I'm using Super Factory Manager. I like SFM because it gives me full control. It's flexible, it's expandable, and honestly, it gets kind of addicting once you start to understand it. That said, while I know how to use it, I'm still learning how to explain it clearly. So rather than me stumbling through the logic, I want to point you to someone who's already nailed that. A fellow content creator and friend, TheVoos, has made a fantastic breakdown of how SFM works. I've linked his video in the description and pinned comment. Go ahead, check it out if you want a clean guide to setting up input or output automation with SFM. And once this is running, go ahead and scale it up, add more crafters, upgrade the tier, and fully automate all your AE2 materials straight from Essence. Now, feel free to copy what I'm about to do here using SFM, but again, I highly recommend watching TheVoos' video to fully understand the logic. I hope what we've gone over helps you process all those mystical agriculture essences and keep your machines powered. Extreme Reactors is one of my favorite mods. I love how it looks and it's surprisingly easy to scale. Flux Networks is amazing for cross-dimensional power, and Mekanism always a reliable way to store it all. Now to address the two elephants in the room. First, AE2. We didn't get to it today, but it's coming next episode. It's overdue. Second, SFM. It's deep, it's intimidating when you start, but it's also incredibly powerful. Next episode, you'll see how easy it makes AE2 processor production and why it's worth learning. Again, check out TheVoos' tutorial. I really can't do this mod justice, and his breakdown is excellent. I had a lot of fun today. This is a big one. I've been running around trying to figure out how to present it all clearly, and moving forward, I'm thinking more frequent videos, but a little bit shorter. Unless the topic demands a deep dive, then we go long form again. I hope you had a great time and that you learned something. Until next time, remember, you're all great. Peace.